Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another FLOWFISH video. Today we're going to be reviewing Backrooms. I went and checked this out the other day, and it wasn't one that was initially on my movie radar, but I heard a lot of good things and I saw the success it was having, and I decided that I needed to go check it out and experience the movie myself. I did not know a lot about the lore going into the movie. I totally went in blind. After seeing the movie, I was certainly captivated by everything that took place, but I did some more research and trying to understand, maybe some of the pieces I was missing or some of the lore behind the movie. And in doing so, I kind of learned, for those that don't know, that in 2019 there was a post on 4chan in which a user asked people to share disquieting images that just felt off. And someone went on to post a yellow tinged room resembling an empty office space or hobby shop. And that user responded, "If you're not careful and you no clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the back rooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, and the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 6 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby." In that single paragraph, the backrooms were born, and it became a creepypasta spread across the internet that took fire and really was something everybody kind of built a community around, or an interest in, of building up the lore of it and sharing other images, and again kind of turning this folklore into something that felt real. It could be real. One of the people who took that and ran with it was Kane Parsons, who created a video on his YouTube channel called The Backrooms Found Footage, and turned it into a web series on his YouTube. One of his initial video, which showed a young kid getting trapped into the back rooms and kind of exploring it and seeing it firsthand, had 190 million views on YouTube. And from that point on, he went to create more videos and build and expand on the idea of the back rooms, and then was later given the opportunity to create this feature film, which has been tremendously successful. So that being said, for those who don't know what the back room is, it's essentially a portal to another dimension outside of our reality. And in this dimension, it's a collection of these rooms that seem to never be ending, that go on for, as the one post said, 6 million square miles, and just seems to be never ending. And you walk into one door and you walk through one door and it takes you to another room, and you walk through another room and it takes you to another room. It's nonstop. It's never ending. It's like being in a maze. And then the setting of it all is they're very normal looking rooms in some ways. It talks about the monochrome yellow that's on the walls, the buzz of the fluorescent lights, and in a way it feels familiar, but it's also not when you look at it as well. The architecture of the rooms doesn't always seem right or feel correct. Through watching the movie and stuff, sometimes it just kind of felt trippy and things felt off. It felt like it was almost a copy of reality, but something that's just not quite right. In the movie, they use this phrase when Clark is trying to describe it to his therapist. It's almost like you ask somebody to draw a dog. You've described what a dog is like to someone, and now you've asked them to draw it. And even when you described it to them, they still quite can't get it right because they've never seen a dog before. And that's what these rooms are. It's almost like they described an office space room or these different areas, and they've been built out. They're sit there, but they're just not quite right. They just don't quite make sense. And then these rooms just go on forever. There's no end to it. There's no stop to it. It's endless. One of the phrases that was thrown out a lot that I think certainly very much relates to this film is liminal horror, which is a subgenre that subverts traditional everyday environments like empty shopping malls, subway stations, or office buildings into settings of profound dread. And it definitely relates to this film a lot because, in a lot of the rooms, it feels like a random office space or a hobby shop. It's very mundane. It's very relatable, but it's void of any human touch. Even in the movie, you look through, the furniture isn't quite in the right places or doesn't quite make sense. There's no presence of other people. It's void, it's quiet, it's eerie. It's the architecture of the rooms and stuff is very trippy. Almost like somebody was on acid when they designed the whole thing. but the person who was on acid wasn't even human, so they're not even familiar with how you would have done it if you were a human on acid per se. And it's really interesting. It's really eerie. I mean, it captivates you, and if you've never seen it before, you're watching, you're just kind of intrigued by it. Like, what are you looking at? How does this all make sense? And it's also like this endless loop where you think you're going through it, and or maybe you're coming back around, and then there's just more. It's nonstop. It's, you turn one corner and it's another long hallway, and you turn into a room and it just leads to another room, and it's just constantly going and going and going. So it's trippy. It's really creepy, and it makes you wonder. It makes you think. And then, you know, we see some tidbits throughout the movie that there's some sort of entity or some sort of being in the back rooms that is maybe not so friendly, and that also just creates another level of fear and anxiety as you're walking around in this space that feels somewhat traditional or somewhat natural, but is not natural whatsoever. Like I said, I watched this movie, I knew nothing about it, and I was watching, I was enjoying it. It was definitely very captivating. I'm not per se a giant horror film enthusiast, but I enjoy a good story, and I like something that's captivating. And I think this was more so the idea of a psychological thriller where you're just trying to understand what's going on, and what are these rooms and where do they lead, or how does it impact the characters in the film. And I felt like this movie did a really good job at that. Kind of kept you on the edge of your seat, not knowing what would happen next or where this story was leading us. I want to give a shout out to the director. Kane Parsons did a fantastic job. He's actually one of the youngest directors, 20 years old, to direct this film, and has had the most successful film in the A24 studio for A24 studio in a film debut. And this kid's 20 years old. So a lot of respect and props to Kane Parsons for making this film happen and taking it to where it is. I also think the actors in the film, the actor who plays Clark, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and the actor who plays Dr. Mary Klein, Renate Reinsve, I think they both did a fantastic job. The film certainly orients itself a lot around these characters, and they're kind of the main staples. And I think they both performed really well. They made the fear and the anxiety of being in these back rooms come to life, and you felt it firsthand through these characters, as well as, you know, Kane Parsons and his directing. I also thought the score was fantastic, which Kane Parsons worked directly on alongside Edo von Bremen. And I think the score certainly filled the tone and the vibe of the story and fit the movie really well. To give a brief synopsis of the film, we are introduced to this character named Clark, who is the owner of a furniture store, Captain Clark's Ottoman Empire. And we're introduced when he has a therapy session with Dr. Mary Klein, who's his therapist, and we discover that Clark is not doing well. He's been recently divorced, and he's on his own. His business isn't doing great. He's kind of struggling and dealing with some internal struggle, as well as a lack of success in his professional life. And that's struggling for him, and he's trying to work through that, and part of seeing the therapist is helping him work through that. But one night, he's at this point he's living in the furniture store. One night, he has some strange flickering of the lights. His TV is not quite working, and it prompts him to go down into the showroom basement of the furniture store. And that's when he finds a portal into the back rooms, and he's totally caught off guard. He doesn't really know what this is. It's not something he's known about before. At first he doesn't even know it's a portal per se. He just knows there's something on the other side of this wall that he can walk through, and it's endless, So he explores it and trying to understand it and learn more about it, and he's interested. He's intrigued to explore this place and learn more about it. The movie kind of skips ahead a little bit to their next therapy session, and Clark shares this with his therapist. She's obviously apprehensive about the whole idea, not really sure if he's telling the truth or what's actually happening. Clark takes this very personally and says, you know what, I'm going to get some proof. I'm going to show you, and you're going to owe me an apology. And that's kind of the opening act of the story from there, is Clark discovering the back rooms and trying to share it with somebody. That's where we kind of go on this crazy ride. I would score the movie an 8.7 out of 10. I thought it was very, very intriguing, very captivating, kept you on the edge of your seat. Even if you didn't know about any of the lore coming into it, it's certainly something that you It was not something that you needed to know. Like, the movie did a great job of just introducing you to the idea and the plot and the things going on. It wasn't something where, like, oh, you have to do your research or go watch these videos before you go see the movie. It was just kind of, it was a good step for a lot of viewers that have never been introduced to the idea of the Backrooms, which was myself. And you're just still intrigued, and you're just trying to understand it and learn it. Frankly, you know, by the end of it, I was just trying to assess what I had seen and what was going on, and even then try to learn a little bit. But I would rate the movie very high, and certainly recommend people to go check it out if you have. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate y'all's time, and have a great day.